Okay, so this is the beat we have for the remainder of the course. It's called I'm in Love. I made it, produced it. I mixed it already, but for the sake of the course, I pretty much unmixed it and just took everything off so you guys can just see the whole process from scratch and, just kind of get a good idea of everything that I do from beginning to end. So before we get into compression and EQ, a huge tip is high quality drum samples and sound samples. Your sound libraries is going to make a big deal, and it's going to make your job mixing easier. Like if you're using low quality sounds, you're going to have to work a little bit harder to really get that high quality mix that you want. It's not impossible. I've done it before. It just takes a little bit more effort and a little bit more work. Same goes with, mixing plugins and EQs and compressors and just different things that you use for audio effects. It's going to make a difference. It's going to make your job easier when you purchase, some good quality plugins. So without further ado, let's dig into it. So, compression and EQ. If you don't know what a compressor is, it's pretty much going to put your sound in a pocket. It's going to bring the high volumes down. Is going to bring your low volumes up, and it's just going to add an overall punchiness to the sound or to the drum and keep it in the pocket so it's not coming out of pocket. In one section is super louder than the rest of the song, and in one section is low. So it's going to put it in a pocket so it's playing evenly throughout. So I like to add a compressor on pretty much all of my tracks. Now, you won't see me add it on these individual drum tracks because I already added a compressor in Machine, and I just drag these drums from Machine into Logic. So they already have a compressor on it. I don't want to over compress them. So you won't see me adding, an additional compressor on these individual drum tracks. You'll just see me, just kind of EQ some things. So let's start out by playing the track so you can hear what the joint sound like, and then we'll go from there. So I like to loop a 8-bar just so I hear the main chorus or hook of the song or beat, and I'll have an idea of where all the sounds are supposed to be. What I like to do, I'm unorthodox. I kind of start backwards, and I add the EQs and the compressors, and then I kind of go and start doing, volume levels and things like that, because once you start adding compressors and things, it's going to change the sound, it's going to change the volume, and then you're going to just have to adjust it anyway. So I like to just add them, as I go. And the first thing I'm going to do is kind of bring this main output down because it's peaking, and we don't want that. So let's see. Okay, so we got that down. Let's go ahead and add got the EQ, and I use the CLA 3A from Waves. It's my favorite go-to plugin for pretty much any sound. And honestly, I just leave it on the Start Me Up preset, and that gets me right. Like, don't be afraid to use some of these presets and just play around with them, and then you can kind of tweak and go from there. And you can hear, how the, different effects change and things like that until you hear what you want to hear, pretty much. So I'm going to solo this track. And you see how it gets low when I take that compressor off. And that compressor brings that volume up. So that's what the compressor does. So we're going to go in, add these EQs and compressors. Let's see, I got one more vocal track. Let's see, kick 2. My kick 1, which is, let's retitle this. This is an 808. I do something a little different. I'd add a compressor, but it's a different kind of compressor, and I'll get into explaining why in the next section of this course. Snap. Reverse. And I love Logic. Logic has a great channel EQ. It's a graphic EQ. I recommend using a graphic EQ like this because it's going to allow you to see the frequencies as they're being played. You know, so you can see where this sound is, and this is going to help you tremendously when you want to cut out certain frequencies so they're not competing with any of the sounds. So right off the bat, anything that's not a kick or an 808 or a bass, I'm rolling off the low end on the EQ. Honestly, I probably should have did that and then copied everything. But it's all good either way, as long as you get to the same destination. So we want to roll this off. As we seen in this sound, it wasn't there. You know, it looks like it was already EQ'd out, but I still do it just in case. Anywhere from 50 to 80, 100. It's really no rules, but the objective is to get any bass or low end frequencies out of this mix. It's going to clean up the mix a whole lot, and it's going to leave room for your kick and your 808 to do what you wanted to do. A lot of people, you know, when they book consultations with me and they're asking like, yo, like my mixes are muddy. This is how you clean up a muddy mix, is rolling off these low ends on every track except for your kick or bass frequencies. So let's go ahead, do that. Roll it around 80 for all of them. And then we'll go back, you know, when we want to get creative, we'll go back and kind of tweak the EQ to taste, you know, depending on what kind of vibe we're going for. Okay, we got a snap in here. You can see that low end, you know, with the snap. So let's roll that off. Got a snare. Let's see what that's doing. It's a little bit in there. Hi-hat, you can go way up if you want to just cut out any of those mids. Leave room for other sounds to do what they need to do. Okay, so I left my kick, left the low end because I want that in the kick. And then we just rolled off, like for hi-hats and, you know, different sounds like that. Unless you want some of the other frequencies in there, you could just roll that off. For this particular sound, I wanted that in there. Kind of had more body than the other hi-hat. But then we'll go in and really tweak these if you want. In the following sections. So we got our compressors, we got our EQs. So now we have a good canvas to start working with and getting these sounds leveled out. Okay, the next section is drums and 808s. We're really going to focus on the drums and the 808s because that's going to be where our mix starts. We're going to turn everything down and just start with the drums and build everything else around those drums.